I am right on location for this next big 49ers update. This is the hill that Colton McKivitz would run up and do broad jumps up 4 to 5 times a week over the off season. Kearney Street between Broadway and Vallejo here on Telegraph Hill in San Francisco, right near North Beach. Fitting timing because the 49ers are about to take on Colton McKivitz's predecessor. Mike McGlinchey's coming to town alongside the Denver Broncos for what should be an epic joint practice session tomorrow. So we're going to look at some of the epic matchups in this joint practice session, starting with Ricky Pearsall against Pat Surtain II, one of the best corners in all football. This was the best defense in all football that the Broncos fielded with their coordinator, Vance Joseph, last season. To me, that's the matchup of this joint practice. And there are a lot of good ones. There's a lot of nostalgic appeal to this since Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga and DJ Jones are all on this Broncos roster making their return to the 49ers practice facility. But Pat Surtain II, this is one of the best corners in all football. He's 6'2", he's strong. The Broncos rely on him to trail the opposition's best receiver so that way they can unleash their pass rush. So he shuts down half the field and then the pass rush does its thing. Denver had 63 sacks last year to lead the entire NFL. That's really what fueled their top defense. It was Pat Surtain shutting guys down on the back end for Vance Joseph and the pass rush getting to work in front of him. So can Ricky Pearsall get open for the 49ers against Pat Surtain II? First, we're going to see a lot of one-on-ones, and I'm sure that Pearsall is the 49ers' number one, at least right now with Brandon Ayuk out, is going to get plenty of reps against Denver's number one in Pat Surtain. And Pearsall, to be honest, has been awesome so far this training camp. He's added a little bit of muscle. He's running with more suddenness into and out of his cuts. And he has the timing down with Brock Purdy in a way that suggests that the 49ers are going to be a very, very tough offense to defend. Much tougher than last year when they ranked dead last in average separation at the time of completion or incompletion. So Pearsall against Surtain. That's the headlining matchup for me in this joint practice. There's been a lot of wondering about Nick Bosa, and I'll tell you, you don't have to worry about Nick Bosa. Even though he hasn't participated in a couple 49ers practices due to soreness, he was out there yesterday before the session got started in earnest. He was wearing his workout monitor and he was running through some pass rush moves. Bosa looks fine. I would expect Bosa to go in this joint practice against the Broncos, where he'll get to face old friend Mike McGlinchey. I'd give the advantage to Bosa on that one. McGlinchey, always a better run blocker than a pass protector. Still, nostalgia is the flair of the day for these joint practices. I can't wait to watch it. Bosa may also get to work against Garrett Bowles on the left side of that Denver offensive line. Of course, on the other side, we're going to get to see Colton McKivitz, and he talked about all the work that he put in on this very hill where I'm standing right now. I mean, I could even take a couple steps up the hill. Talking and walking up this hill in San Francisco, not easy, but this is what Colton McKivitz did broad jumps up while he was training 4 to 5 times a week over this offseason. Well, now he gets to put it to the test against a Denver defense that led the NFL with 63 sacks last year. Zach Allen is going to be coming off of one of the edges. This is a 3-4 Denver front. So 49ers get to look at something different than their own defensive line, which is coming in with the 4-3 wide 9, courtesy of Robert Salah and Chris Kasarik. The Broncos are going to run things a little bit differently, and well, something might be familiar for the 49ers as far as that front goes. The very middle of it features DJ Jones playing the nose tackle in the 3-4 for the Denver Broncos. That means that the newly minted official interior of this 49ers offensive line, since Ben Bartch has essentially just been named the starting left guard for the 49ers, they're going to be put to the test. Bartch at left guard, Jake Brendel at center, Dominic Pooney at right guard. I'm sure all of them will have turns taking on DJ Jones, and 49ers fans should know how destructive this one technique, this nose tackle, can be. Dominic Pooney had some very interesting comments this week, and they really mirrored what Chris Foerster said about him as well. The 49ers saw Dominic Pooney hit a bit of a rookie wall in 2024. And it wasn't just a physical wall. He also wasn't able to counter move the way that he needed to against opponents after they were able to make adjustments against him. So Pooney has now had the entire offseason to watch tape, to work on technique with Chris Foerster, with other 49ers coaches, to make sure that he's ready to counter opposing defensive linemen. DJ Jones has been around the league since 2017 when the 49ers drafted him in the 6th round. He's a savvy vet. I'm sure that he's going to put Pooney to the test. Does Pooney have the counter moves to start this 2025 campaign? First action against a different team. Does he have the counter moves to start it better than he finished the last one in 2024? We know that Pooney is immensely talented. We know that he got off to a red hot start for about 3/4 of that 2024 season. But this is a big sophomore step that he's got to take. And I think it's going to be really exciting not to see just Pooney, but to see Jake Brendel, who hasn't been on any sort of injury report for the 49ers this offseason. Remember, he was dealing with the knee tendonitis last offseason. Chance to see him, chance to see Ben Barch, who might have been the 49ers' best interior lineman, albeit in a small sample size in 2024. Let's see how these guys can take on DJ Jones. Flipping to the other side of the ball, Courtland Sutton recently signed a deal worth up to $92 million. He's a big, tall, strong Denver receiver, 6'4". How do the 49ers cover him? How does Upton Stout, in case he gets matched up with Courtland Sutton, work that disadvantage? Upton's only 5'8". We know that he plays much taller than that, but it's worth asking, and it's probably going to be something that we see an answer to at some point on Thursday. Of course, we could clearly say that this is Deommodore Lenoir against Courtland Sutton, 49ers' #1 corner against the Broncos' #1 receiver. But I think that we should look at this in a more collective sense. It is Robert Saleh's 49ers defense against Sean Payton's Denver Broncos offense. Even though Denver was definitely stronger on the defensive side of the ball, that was the locomotive that pulled the train for the Broncos last year. Sean Payton remains one of the best play callers in the game. If there's somebody that's able to create matchup advantages for Courtland Sutton with his size, it's Sean Payton. If there's somebody on the other side that's able to neutralize such advantages, it's Robert Saleh. And Robert Saleh's been running a lot of blitzes, a lot of creative stunts up front. I mean, he's been experimenting with his new 49ers personnel. There may be up to 8 new starters for the 49ers defense. Well, all this experimenting has been happening against the 49ers offense. Now it can happen against Sean Payton and company. So one of the anchoring matchups that I'm looking forward to is Lenoir against Courtland Sutton. But I think the overarching battle that I want to see is Robert Saleh against Sean Payton, as both of these play callers have a chance to work against somebody else for the first time in this 2025 season. This is one of those opportunities where you could mess up a few times. It's okay. And I'm sure that there are going to be big plays for the Broncos, maybe some big plays for the 49ers, and vice versa when we see the offenses and defenses of both of these teams going at it. But a competitive practice is what is the imperative for both teams. They recognize that it's not going to be all sunshine and roses. They recognize that this is work, and I think that the Broncos just so happen to be a perfect setup, perfect template for the 49ers to work against, to try to strain some of their weaknesses and improve as training camp drags on. And speaking of that, Brock Purdy against the #1 defense. Vance Joseph has been the coordinator now 3 years, and he's taken the Broncos to the very top of the league. As I said, they're going to run a lot of aggressive pressure. The 63 sacks last season for Denver, no joke. They've got good coverage on the back end, anchored by Pat Surtain II. So how does Purdy respond to this challenge? One thing that I'll note is that these practices are going to be run the same way that the past 2 weeks have been run. Quarterbacks cannot be touched or taken live to the ground, so that means that Brock Purdy is not going to be able to run around the way that he does, or at least with the effectiveness that he does during regular season games. That's a trade-off that you're willing to take because you don't want your quarterback getting ragdolled at a practice. So we won't have a full look into how the 49ers offense would perform against this Denver Broncos #1 defense, but we'll have quite the glimpse into things. And remember that next to Surtain, there's Talanoa Hufanga, who's practiced plenty against Brock Purdy. Then there's Dre Greenlaw, who's practiced plenty against the 49ers. In fact, you know, Dre Greenlaw, this is funny. We're on the hill that Colton McKivitz loved to run. Well, I guess I should say loves to run. He loves checking out the city of San Francisco 4 to 5 times a week in the off season. Since we're here, we'll mention a Colton McKivitz story to close this out. He's ready for some real intensity from Dre Greenlaw because Colton McKivitz took that intensity from Dre Greenlaw even when they were teammates. You know, when there's the warm-up session before a game, linebackers will be running around, offensive linemen will be running around. It should be more of a walkthrough kind of thing, but guys are juiced up, especially somebody like Dre Greenlaw, and they do make a little bit of contact. There could be some thudding up with the pads on before the game. Colton McKivitz said that Dre Greenlaw took those pregame warm-up sessions a little bit more intensely than other players, that he would dish out contact that was a little bit more vicious than other players, to the point where he was like, hey, Dre, I need you to calm down a bit. But I don't think you can get Dre Greenlaw to calm down. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for the 49ers to get anything like that to happen tomorrow. Should be a lot of emotion on that practice field. Kyle Shanahan said that he hates going against players that he loves, and he loves Dre, he loves Talanoa Hufanga. McGlinchey's also over there, DJ Jones is there. So is Trent Sherfield, by the way, receiver for the Broncos. So that aspect of it might be difficult, but it will be fascinating as we watch the 49ers take on their first opponent of 2025. If you have any questions about the practice, what do you want to see? Tell me what you want to see in the comment section of this video, because I've already shown you the hill, Kearney Street, that Colton McKivitz works out on, does broad jumps up and down this hill. I mean, this is crazy. I've shown you all that. Now tell me what you want to see next from 49ers joint practice with the Denver Broncos.